you look at our away record, it's been pretty good this year. Probably as good as our home record. And we'll be quite settled playing 5 games at the Rand Stadium because our one away game is against JDR, which is also at the Rand Stadium. So we'll be playing 5 games at the Rand Stadium. It's got a nice large pitch. I'm hoping that the surface is as good as it usually is. So it suits us. There's no nerves on this side about playing away. Maybe the first 2 games just to acclimatize and get used to the altitude. And then we're as good as everybody else, isn't it?
Ari, just could you give us a little update on how the players are doing? And also, since we last spoke to you, was it 6 or 7 boys have joined the first team?
Yeah. Well, I think we're taking 27 players with. The only player that's not available is Katlego. You know, he had that break on his ankle, and we don't think he's going to be ready. But we've promoted 3 juniors, 3 really promising juniors. Shumani, the left winger, Kayam Fakane, the number 6, and the other youngster who can play 10 or he can play on the wings, attacking player. So we've got enough backup. So we've got our whole squad plus the 3 new little diamonds that are coming through. So I think we're fine. The team's been training now for we'll be close to 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks by the time we get there. Fitness levels are good. We've tested. Obviously, the big issue is the 90-minute games, which we've played only 2. We'll try and do one more before the end of we go there. But it's all internal, so the intensity is not as high. I think so. The test is going to be on our fitness in this league. I think who's going to outplay everybody on fitness. We are hoping that the other teams aren't as fit as we are, but very confident. We've had a few niggles with hamstrings, which is where the worries are, but we've nursed them. So as we stand, we are clear.
You know, it will be understandable at this period that any team would not go unscathed when it comes to being financially affected. Just maybe let us in the team in this period. How has financially, you know, just Ajax on your side suffered in this period financially? What has been, you know, and how dire has been sort of like the impact of this period financially for the team?
Look, it's been very tough, to be honest. And when you've got overheads like we have, it becomes even a bigger pain. But what we've tried to be to all our staff, we've tried to be very fair. So we have had no cuts in our professional team. What we've done with the juniors, because we can't go, SAFJA won't allow us to play, and we're expecting to only play in January. So we've taken a call on the rest of the club. But not on the PSL, on the NFD team. NFD team have received full salaries. So have the tech team. It's very, very important for us that their mental state remains strong. Remember that everybody gets a salary and everybody overspends it. So the minute you start cutting, they've got to cut from somewhere else. And the last thing we needed is that they start worrying about those issues. So we've maintained our commitment to them, and I think they're doing the same with us. So they're being very loyal and showing their appreciation to how we've treated them.
The cycle to push up talent to the first team continues to be consistent at Ajax. Obviously, not always successful. Have you guys sat down? I mean, it's 20 years now. Have you guys sat down to have an honest look at the progress made by the players that you push up to the first team, and whether the way you've been doing things is the right way, whether you need to update the way you do things, or keep up with whoever else is doing something awesome. Like, I mean, Monaco is doing something good now, and they're doing it not in the traditional sense. Benfica is doing something great with talent development as well. So there's many clubs to also look at now and analyze and copy or adapt their systems. Have you had a look at your systems and how Ajax has been doing things the past 20 years, and how if that's the way to go for the next 20 years?
Well, you know, I think we've got to look back at the history. I think the last count we did is we've produced 120 professional footballers into the league from our junior ranks. So I think it has worked on a local basis. I think if we look at competing in the European leagues, we've struggled, but not as Ajax, as South Africans. So there's no doubt about it that there's huge improvement that can be made in developing players, and that's the reason we did Lambda. But you know, guys, it all goes back to money. What do you need to do? I mean, we can't teach soccer. We can just coach soccer. So we can feed people, we can school people, we can educate people. But at the end of the day, it's all about playing football. And how do you do that better? One way is to have better coaches and training and better training methods. The other thing is to have good competition. And I think that's probably where we lack the most. So you bring in all the talented players in the under 13s, under 14s, under 15s, and then you play with other teams that are not well developed, and you thrash them 8-0 and 9-0 and 10-0, and it's not good enough. So there's two issues that need to be improved. Is obviously the coaching side, and number two is the competition, which is not a problem that we can fix. But if you ask me, can we improve it? Yes, we can. How much? A lot. But we've just got to keep on investing more money. And now it's going to become a lot more difficult with finances. I mean, we can see that sponsorship is getting tighter. We've got to be very cautious this year. So we can't take any risks. So we've got to probably plug in more money into the PSL team to make sure that we are 100% safe. So lots of challenges.
Morning, Ari. You're well.
How are you, Nick?
We spoke before COVID-19 about the relationship with Ajax Amsterdam and going forward beyond this season. Now COVID-19 has hit in a big way, has affected you. I'm sure it's also affected them as well. Have there been any further discussions about the relationship at this time, and has it had an effect on that?
Listen, COVID-19 is a worldwide problem. It's not, I mean, their figures this year are going to take a huge knock as well. And that's because the stadiums can't be filled. So imagine every game they play, they have 52,000 people. So I think those budgets are getting hit as well. And I think there's still a discussion with Amsterdam to the future of Ajax Cape Town. I would be dishonest to say that it's not guaranteed. But we're still discussing things.
About the future of Calvin, I know the last time we spoke, you did mention that, you know, he's probably the favorite to be given the permanent reins next season. Has that changed at all? Have you been in discussions with him around plans for next season yet?
Callie's doing very well. I'm actually very impressed in the way he's handled, because, you know, you're sitting as an assistant coach to another coach and you tend to hold back. And he's had to take the lead here, and he's done very, very well. So, you know, I think we need to see what happens in the next month or 3 weeks. But I've got a very, very close relationship with him, so I talk to him all the time. So whatever decision we'll make together.
Have you guys done any calculations to say, you know, I mean, yes, there's plan A. The league is going to be played now, and there's nothing expected to stop it again. But have you guys got something where, should there be ever another Corona plus, you know, situation? Have you thought about how many points? I mean, we made a joke about it earlier. How many points you might need where you can say you can really breathe a sigh of relief and say, you know, we've done enough. Whatever happens now, we are sorted either way.
12. That's the guarantee number. I think 12 points will give us 19 points ahead. The most anybody else can get is 18. So that's what we need, 12 points.
Okay.
Nothing less than that. And the earlier you get them, the better it is. I think there will be lots of challenges going into these games. There's going to be shortage of players. There's going to be lots of injuries. There's going to be fatigue. There's going to be it's going to be a circulating of your whole squad. You can't keep on playing the same 11, because if you're going to have a problem. But we need 12 points. You know, anything less than that, we've got to assume that everybody else is going to win. And of course, if we beat Swallows, when we beat Swallows in the third game, that puts them into a bit of a, into a situation. Even if we draw with them, it hinders them, and then you've got to worry about what the guys behind them are doing. Because I think we're 1 point behind only. So they're 10 points. So you still need 12. You can't go 3 plus a draw. You still need 4. So that's what we're aiming for, 4 wins. And 4 wins in the first 4 games. That's what we've targeted.
I just wanted to know, the league has been on pause for 5 months, and now we've got the 6 weeks to finish. Yeah. Is the 6 weeks going to be enough financially to cover the losses that a lot of the clubs have made during the pause in play? And also, as a knock-on effect of that, do you expect to see much movement in the transfer window?
Yeah, I think financially, or finance is going to be a major issue in the next couple of years. I think on our side, we run a very efficient business model. So we always make sure that we have enough reserves to see us through. So financially, we are fine. But I think there will be a problem with regards to transfers. I think there will be minimal. I think there will be an issue with player salaries next year. I think there's players that are going to be left without jobs because they're going to be sitting wanting huge remuneration packages, especially ones leaving from big clubs. And there's going to be no money available. I can tell you that for sure. We're still waiting to see how the league's going to be affected. There's been no announcement of a sponsor yet. So I'm not sure where we are. I think Telkom Cup won't be played this year, so there's more financial strain on that side. So all in all, if you ask my personal opinion, I think financially this is going to be an extremely challenging year.
Aaron, me again. I just want to ask, without going into details of any names or anything like that, as one of the clubs that are more stable, have you had coaches, players approaching you guys over this period because of their fear of what their future is?
Yes, we've obviously had lots of discussions with coaches and with players, lots of players and agents. But I think everybody's a little bit hesitant because they need to have a discussion with us with regards to whether we're in or whether we're not in the Premier League. So the discussions are very preliminary, if I may call it. So we'll discuss it, and if we knew we were in, we could have more serious discussions. But at this point, players will also look at their situation: can they do a deal with Ajax? And if Ajax doesn't make it, then maybe they're left in the lurch. So they're a little cautious, which is understandable. But we've got earmarked, quite a few players earmarked. We've made some deals, and they're subject to PSL, which have been accepted. But we need a little bit more experience and depth in key positions. That's going to be our biggest challenge. It's the time limit. So let's assume that we only get promoted on the last day of the month, on the 30th. Then we start pre-season the same week. What do we start pre-season with? You can't bring foreign players in really to look at, because once they've got to come in they've got to be going on a 14-day, what do you call it?
Quarantine.
Quarantine, apologies, yeah. 4 days, then you need to have a look at them, at least for another 2 weeks. So there's your 4 weeks gone. And then if they're not ideal, you've wasted 4 weeks with a foreign player that doesn't work. And then you start probably, I reckon we'll start first week of October, and then you've got a week left. So foreign players are also problematic to bring in unless you know them.
Last season, you were in a similar position, but maybe I think this time you are in a better position. The 7 point is a bit of a cushion. But what are you looking to do differently from how you handled being close to the finishing line? What lessons were learned from last season, which you don't want to repeat this time around?
It's about mental strength. That's what it is. You can't improve the player skills or the player method of what we do. We've got the challenges of not playing for five months. But everybody's got the same challenge. So I think this whole thing is about how desperately do you want to be in the Premier League. And the discussions I have with the players, which I have every single day, they are so focused about being promoted. And I think that's what will take us over the line is the players wanting to get promoted. I think I agree with you. Last year we had a bit of a hiccup with our game against Royal Eagles. At the time, if we had beaten Royal Eagles, we would have gone top. Then we came home and we lost to Tongati. So we ran out of steam at the end, which you can imagine was very disappointing. But this time round, I think with a nice 7-point lead, we've got a little bit of a cushion, so we don't need to panic. There will be surprise results in those 6 games of everybody because of fitness, injuries, etc. But I think mental strength is what's going to take us over the line this time, and not anything else.
I'm just going to pick up one of the questions I think that was left at the top as well from Spongs. He was just asking about what the team's reaction was after seeing sort of the GladAfrica Championship trophy when it was, shown this week. What was the reaction? And to add on that, has some of the, Leeds United promotion, we've been watching sort of English football, has sort of their promotion sort of, motivated the team at this time, and looking at the prize money, Ari, that's going to come from this, will it by any way assist in patching up some of, where you would have financially, taken out? Would it then patch up a certain space? Is it coming well? Is it coming in to sort of assist, in patching up, some space that was affected by this COVID period?
Listen, when you watch the Leeds promotion game, and there's no doubt about it that you wanted to leave the TV and get onto the field and play your game and do the same thing. You get highly motivated. I mean, I watched the Fulham game as well the other day. I mean, and if you saw what they went through, they were playing for, the number, I think, was 3.5 billion rand. It's a nice big number. But apart from that, lifting your life into a different level. Each player's got an opportunity now to move there. So yes, it was a very watching both those games was very highly motivating, and the boys want to see that, and they're actually seeing it. On the prize money issue, again, the 3 million rand prize money is, of course, will help. But is it the crux of our ambition? Probably not. Whether it was 3 million rand or no million rand, the motivation remains the same, that being in the Premier League is where you want to be. But of course, 3 million, sure the players will share part of it. We've paid good bonuses this year. We've promised them part of that as well. And then the balance, try and patch up our negative cash flows.
And just a reaction on seeing that trophy, Ari?
It's beautiful, isn't it? So it's quite nicely. We've measured it. It fits nice in the trophy cabinet. We put a space for it. Hopefully we can bring it home.
Paulette Sonyani from Super Sport. Quick question. With almost piggybacking on the question that Velile had asked, last season you had the opportunity to get back into the PSL and that did not work out. And this time around, you have a great opportunity to get back into the PSL. Should that not work out, have you thought about possibly buying your way back in, or is that not an option?
No, I don't think it's an option, to be honest. Last year there was an opportunity. We've used up the money this year. So, to run a club like we have, it cost us in excess of 20 million this year to run the NFT club the way we run a professional organization like we do, juniors, facilities, marketing. We've put a good team together, the coaching. I mean, we had a Dutch coach for most of the year. We spent in excess of 20 million this year of our money. So no, it's not an option. We have to win promotion. That's it. There's no other option. So we're going to go out and sweat blood till we win it.
Very interesting. Okay. Sorry, Paul. Very interesting. I read the point you're mentioning there, very late again, because there's been this notion during this lockdown when everything had stopped that clubs can't cut salaries because the league has been paying the grants, and we all know that the grant in the first division is just R500,000. So I think what you've just said now, before I ask my question, what you've just said now, it says something else, that most of the time as club owners you have to top up from your own coffers.
Yes.
You know,
there's no way you can run a club of our magnitude with frankly, even the PSL grant is not enough for us without having a sponsor, so that you can put that in your mind. So running an NFD clubs with the facilities we have, with 120 youth players, staff, training, coaches, physical trainers, physiotherapists, medical department, our canteen, our marketing. You know, this is not a small club. This is a huge club with huge expenses. Now, you can't just get rid of them and say, I'm going to run the thing from the club from the boot of my car and find a field and play football. We've never done that. And we never plan to do it. And to run another year in the NFD at that kind of money is just, it's crazy. And the players know that, and the players know that they need to go out there and they need to win. And guys, we're going to win. We're going to get promoted.
Yesterday, I was watching the Zambian Super League, and I'm going to be a bit long because I have to narrate the story for you. And something interesting happened, and this was just before a match was about to finish, and a new champion for the league title was about to be confirmed, and they were about to go down to present the trophy and the medals. And then a letter came from the office about an appeal decision that had gone through, and now they had to stop the presentation that they had to do. And part of this has got to do with also COVID-19 cases and how they've planned it. So do you think this was a best decision by the PSL to have this BSE to avoid maybe something similar to what has happened in leagues like Zambia, where now there's more litigation cases flying around about declaring the season null and void or not having a BSE, and you end up having a lot of COVID-19 infections, and this resumption is thrown upside down.
Look, I don't know exactly what happened in Zambia, but I think we were all very aware that the best way to finish this league without having any litigation whatsoever was to play, which is what we're doing. I think any other solution would have caused some issue. I mean, if they had nullified the league, what choice would I have had other than to go to the legal side and try and see, after playing 80% of the games, if they had done anything else and called the league like it is, there would have been 2 other teams, or 3 other teams, or 4 other teams that would be happy. So I think the chairman, and we've got to give huge major credit to him. From the beginning, he said these leagues must be played, and in that way we won't have any issues. And he's had huge challenges. I mean, the costs and the process and the SAFJA and the government and COVID and everybody's health were all in the way, and he's managed to push it through. So I think the best solution is exactly what's happening. Ideally, I mean, if you look at us now, we're saying we're playing 4 of our home games away. It's not ideal, but under the circumstances, I mean, everybody's going to have one complaint, some sort of complaint. But I think this is the absolute best solution, and I'm just very glad that we got the opportunity to finish the league. You know, you also want to play and finish the league, and if you happen to be crowned champion, you do it properly, and we want to do it that way.
Morning, Ari. Morning, everyone. My name is Azwi Hangwi Simukuba from Vision V Sports Radio. Just one or two questions, Ari. You've been out of the top flight, I think, for about 2 seasons, and I just need to find out what is the plan in ensuring that Ajax Cape Town stay in the top flight for the longest time. And then the second question is, have you been in talks with maybe possible sponsors to offset some of the financial burdens you've been going through during this period?
Okay, so just to answer your question, I think we've sort of answered it a bit earlier on, but let's just decide. So I think there's two issues with regards to making sure that you remain in the league. One is that you've got a good enough squad, which is essential. And number two is you've got a good professional infrastructure that carries you through, because, you know, over time, I think the one advantage we've had in the NFT is that we have an organized structure. Everybody feels comfortable and safe. They know where they're going. The players are comfortable. And I think in the PSL or in the professional league, you'll find that the leagues that are mostly professionally run have got a slight edge. That's as long as you've got a squad that's good enough. And to be honest, like I said earlier, we need to strengthen. So our target this year, if we get promoted, will be to make sure that we stay there and possibly push for a top 8 position, but it's going to be very, very difficult to do much more. Remembering also that we've got a very, very young squad, huge potential in players, but you know, they've never played PSL. So will they manage? Will they not? You can't take that risk too much. So we definitely, the squad definitely needs strengthening. That's the first question. I'm trying to remember your last question was. Sorry, what was your last question?
Sponsors and trying to offset.
Sponsors, yes. Honestly, I think you're going to have to dig out sponsors. I don't think that the sponsors are going to come out of the woodwork this year. I cannot see any money flowing into sponsorship, whether it's in football, whether it's in soccer, whether it's in a specific club. I think you've got to be very lucky to try and get somebody on board. So we've done our budgets with an assumption that we will not have a sponsor. We have had discussion, lots of, and it actually is not even about what we can offer or how much money to get paid. It's about what budgets they have available. And there's not much available in anybody's budget at the moment to throw at sponsorship, especially football, or any sponsors, or any sport for that matter. So it's tough.
Oh yes, I was saying the teams in the coastal teams in the country, they've always been
in the what?
The coastal teams in the
I can't hear you. Sorry.
The coastal teams.
Yes, coastal teams.
Yes, they've always have to travel long distances, as opposed to the teams in the inland stream, like teams in Gauteng, because a lot of teams are in the
I'm struggling to hear you. Can you speak a bit louder?
The teams in the PSL, most of the teams, they are in inland stream teams. If you look at the number of teams in the league, in the PSL, so that means the team in the coast have to travel long distances. They travel a lot longer than the teams which are in the inland stream, especially Gauteng teams. If you do get what I'm saying. For example, Ajax will have to travel more and longer distances than Kaizer Chiefs or SuperSport who are in Gauteng because of the distance. Chipa United will have to travel. They might go to Bloemfontein, they might go to Polokwane, they might have to go to Sundowns in 3 successive matches. Yeah. And that over the years, it's always been a disadvantage for coastal teams because they travel a lot and they cover more distances than teams in the inland, teams in Gauteng, which are many. One, and secondly, because obviously they are closer to each other. So it makes it easier for them to travel for matches. And the reason I'm bringing this is because even now, for example, you guys are going to have to come up to Joburg to play at the high altitude for the bio bubble. And obviously those kind of issues come into play because it means you're coming out of your comfort zone under different conditions. You come and play in Gauteng for that long. You're going to stay for a much longer period. So the reason why in fact, the reason why I brought this up is because I realized that over the years, the coastal teams are struggling, and the reason why they struggle is because of the very same issue of traveling, because they travel a lot more than the inland stream teams. Obviously, there's nothing much you can do about it, because if you're in the PSL, you have to travel anyway. But is that a concern, and do you think that will still continue to happen over the years, because you'll still be traveling, being in the PSL, and the issue of high altitude obviously come into play, given that you are a coastal team, you're not the high altitude team, so that traveling will also still come into play. Will that continue to be a disadvantage for team in the coastal? Would you agree with me if I say that will continue to be a disadvantage for teams in coastal streams?
Look, it's always been a disadvantage on the traveling side. I mean, you know, you have to go and travel sometimes to India. You end up traveling for 10 odd hours. But maybe this year or next year, if we get promoted, we'll have a slight advantage if we have 3 Cape sites. It means all the teams got to come to Cape Town 3 times. So it gives us a better chance. But yeah, it hasn't been easy. It's always difficult to travel up to the Gauteng area or Pretoria area, or even further up north. It's always been a challenge, and it's one of the difficulties that we do have. But you know what? That's how it works. You move through it, and it is what it is. So maybe if we have 4 or 5 Cape Town teams, it'll help us a little bit more. You know.
I think Khomotso was also asking about being up here for the next few weeks. Is that a disadvantage, or do you see it as an advantage without having to travel?
No, it's definitely not an advantage. And I think the first week's going to be a challenge. So the Richards Bay game is fine, because we'll be only up for 2 days, and then we're playing we just passed the right period, you know, 5 or 6 days. But you're always away from home, so you're away from your comfort level in any case. So I wouldn't definitely call it an advantage. I'd definitely call it a disadvantage compared to if we had played our 4 games at home. But I think we've discussed it again, you know, under the circumstances, this is the best possible solution, and we've got to do it, and we've got to go out and show what we're about. And whether we're at home or away, we have to win, and that's what we're going to do, guys. I've been really stressing that, because I don't think there's another option for us but to win. And that same confidence that I'm trying to give you, I'm giving to my players and my technical team, and they know that there's no option out there, and they've accepted it, and they're motivated, and they're ready, and they're going to go out there and give a heart out to win on the weekend, on on Tuesday and Saturday, and they know there's no other option. And we talk about that every day.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to ask, obviously everything has been set now and there is no turning back in terms of the bubble and whatnot, but obviously with the COVID cases rising up, and especially in Gauteng, is there a way in which that Ajax is you know, helping the players to not let the anxieties get to them? Or do you have maybe a system where you don't encourage them to watch the news as the numbers, you know, or even you guys as club bosses as well, the anxieties, do they get to you watching the cases rise up?
Look, I think the most important thing is not to change things too much. You know, not change the way the things they do and the things they get used to every day, because then anxiety starts coming in. So it's got to become just part of your daily routine, what we do. And what's very important is to get to see how these boys are thinking. And their minds are so clear. It's incredible to have a look at, to see how, when you speak to each one of them, and they're completely and 100% motivated. So I think to start telling them you can't do this and you can't do that, we've already told them they're going to be stuck in a hotel room for 20 days. That's enough. I mean, I'm going to be stuck in the hotel room with them, because I'm going as well. I've decided to go and stay with them. I think it's important that I'm by their side, so that I suffer the same thing that they do. So I've left my family for 20 days. And I'm going to go and sit with them in the hotel. And I think that's what I can show to them, that what they're sacrificing, I'm sacrificing too. And they've got to understand that what I need in my life and where I need to go is just as important as where they need to go. But I think putting any further limitations to them, and they can't do this and they can't do that, would just work against everything.